Kuzu Zangpola, I'm Thai, the first Bhutanese to walk the Paris Fashion Week. She's also the first one to walk in the Milan Fashion Week, and I have a feeling she's just beginning. So please help me in welcoming Tashipede.
Hi! Hi, my name is Tashpalin Jamso. I'm also known as Tashpere. And like she just mentioned, I am the first Bhutanese model to be walking Paris and Milan Fashion Week so far.
I have to admit, talking to you today is very interesting because as most young girls in general, you grow up looking at all these like fashion magazines and then you see all these beautiful models inside, and it's sort of surreal because I'm talking to one right now. And I was wondering, were you one of those girls who would look at fashion magazines, and did you ever think you would be in one of them?
Actually, as I was growing up, I wasn't really into fashion. Like, I was like a tomboy because I was surrounded by so many achos, like so many elder brothers, and I used to like, kind of like keep up with them whenever they would go for like cycling or anything, then I'd be like just like running after them. And I never had, like the thought of modeling didn't even like cross my mind, not even once.
So what was your ambition when you were growing up? What did you think you would become?
Oh my God, I had so many ambitions. My first ambition was to become a superstar.
Okay.
Like, those pop singers, but I just wanted to be like Hannah Montana or something. Because it was an influence from the TVs, right?
Yes.
And then after, I think my fourth grade, I kind of realized that it's surreal, that dream is never going to happen. So then I moved on to wanting to become something more like a lawyer. I wanted to be a lawyer. And I looked at everything. In grade 10, I was like, oh no, that's not a good idea. Lawyers, there's a lot of time you have to invest. And I'm actually not one who can invest that much time. So I thought, okay, you know what? That's not for me too. And then my mom and dad introduced me to business, and I really liked the idea. Like, my family compound has these apple orchards, and then we used to like I used to pluck the apples and then sell them on the roadside.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just to make pocket money. And I used to have fun. And every time my dogs gave birth, I used to like put them up for adoption. I used to just sit by the roadside and just have a box full of apples and puppies. And I used to like be like, one apple, one puppy, take it together.
So growing up, you had no ambition of being a fashion model, and you were interested in business, and you were an enterprising apple and puppy seller / giver. Yeah. And then how did fashion come into your life?
After my college in Australia, I just started I came back for a gap year because I wanted to be sure that I wanted to study business when I go back to college. And I was just trying out many different things. During that time, I did event management. I went for entrepreneurship courses that were provided by the government, which was really helpful. And then all of a sudden, Ajim Chimi, she reached out. There was a photographer who kind of came in from India, and she wanted to showcase her clothes. So I kind of said okay to that. That was my first. That's my second gig. I did the CDK fashion show at Royal Textile Academy. And then just from there, those little things just kind of built up. And then all of a sudden, there was a, what do you call it? An offer from my agency through Instagram.
Yeah, the last time we had a chat, we were talking about how it must have been in the cards for you because Yuong reached out to you.
Yeah.
Yuong magazine reached out to you, and then you were like, I don't know, let's think about it. Tell us about that.
Oh yeah, so Yuong kind of reached out to me on Instagram saying that Anima Creatives, my mother agency, is coming, is gonna scout. So she was like, you should definitely try out. And then I was like, no, questionable, because you can't really trust agencies, and it's not that easy. There's a lot of negativity, negative thoughts on the fashion industry, and at that time I was new. I didn't know anything. So obviously, just like any other normal person would, I also had my doubts.
Yes.
And I rejected that. And then Ajim Chimi had me in, and I told you I had that photo shoot and everything. And I was not even ready. No makeup, no nothing. And it was just me putting on clothes, and he was taking pictures outside. Right after that, I got the offer from my agency because Ajim Chimi had sent my photos from those fitting photos to my agency. The first modeling gig we all do as a new model is a test shoot. And a test shoot is where we collaborate with a makeup artist and a photographer who wants to work with a new face and kind of expose that new face, because they can be like, oh, I worked with her first, you know, if someone ever makes it big. Anyway, first time I modeled, it was really weird. Like, I didn't know what to do, and my parents were around because my parents came down with me all the way to Mumbai, and it took me like around 2 months to convince my parents, 3 months actually, to convince my parents to let me go down and try this. Anyway, when I got down, my agency was there, the makeup artist, we all were in the room, and I was wearing a bikini, and I had like this robe on top, which was a part of the look as well. And then as I was taking the photo, I was just like, you know, bending on the wall and just looking out and seeing, is my mom and dad watching me? I feel so insecure. I'm wearing a bikini. What do I do? Just as I was leaning, the photographer from the other side just took a picture. She was like, Tashi, that's really good. Keep going, keep going. I was like, what is she talking about? And you know, like, it's just spontaneous. Like, you don't know whether what you're doing right or what you're doing wrong. And my first gig, I was so confused. I did not know what I was doing or what I should do. This is the thing. They say we have to take grooming classes to become a model. We don't. There is no one who's going to mentor you into that. It's going to be your agency, and it's going to be how hard you work, how passionate you are about the job, and how much you really want it.
I'm really interested to find out how your parents felt. Did they tell you later how they felt?
Yeah, actually my dad was not really for me modeling because I'm a girl and it's understandable. But they were really proud of me after everything, because it's not easy to stand in front of a camera and bring out a character or kind of like talk to the camera with your eyes and kind of bring forth what the whole team is trying to make you bring forth, you know. It's kind of like a lone lead. Yes. With nothing to work with. Yes. And you have to be imaginative no matter what you do. Even striking a pose, you have to, like, you know, think what you want to say when you're using a certain body language. When you're like turning your body towards an angle, you have to like make sure that you know exactly what you want carried forth from you.
Then you went on to walk in the Milan Fashion Week, and then after that the Paris Fashion Week. How did that come into your life?
It took me like a year to get myself there, you know. It wasn't easy. I had a lot of problems with myself, and we have to maintain a diet, we have to work hard, and to go abroad we have to work even harder. Like probably 2 months prior to going abroad, I'd start like planning my diet thoroughly and going to the gym more often. They want you to look really good, the best you look. Like so we have proportions for our body, and that's measured out, and we maintain that proportion.
Okay.
So if we do that, then we have like this, it's not actually bad because my agency doesn't really like force me into a diet or anything. It's whether you want to go abroad, because even when I was working in India, I was working enough to make a good living. You know, it's just if you want to push yourself and go forward and kind of expand your career to the international market, then you kind of work to that level. So for me, it was really hard to get to Paris Fashion Week and Milan Fashion Week. And when I got there, it was when I first signed my contract with my agency in Milan, I was so surprised. I was like, oh my God, my hard work paid off. I'm actually getting signed? What? I had to call my parents up. I was like, Mom, Dad, I made it. I made it. I got signed to an agency in Milan.
Did your parents go with you to Paris and Milan, or was it just yourself?
It was just myself.
So, and then you signed the contracts just by yourself and the people there.
Yes.
So was it intimidating, and how did you make sure? What kind of homework did you do to make sure that you know you're not being thugged, or you're not signing on to something that is not so healthy, perhaps?
Firstly, there's this whole website called Models. Which has a list of agencies that are authentic and agencies that are top agencies, top models and all that. So you kind of can tell the authenticity of an agency through that. Because when you search up on the web, is Special Management or let's say Karma Agency or even Anima Creatives, are they authentic? it's always going to be a yes. But then when you look towards that models dot page, you can see the real authenticity of that page because they give you a list of models who've made it from their side. And other than that, I did a lot of research on the agency to see if there was any scandals involved. Because you have to make sure, right? You never know what you're getting yourself into. Exactly. And the other thing that I had that was like good for me was my agency heads, Mark and Gunita. They both knew the people directly. Because they were models themselves in the past. They already knew the people. So kind of like gave me that satisfaction that I needed, you know, that safety, that security that I needed.
And how did your parents react when you said you got signed by?
They were so happy for me. Yeah, they were like so excited for me. They were like, "When are you leaving? Oh, I can't wait to see you on Fashion Week."
Now you've modeled in Bhutan, you've modeled in India, you've modeled in Europe. What are some of the differences that you find in respect of the craft itself and even in the treatment of models, perhaps?
In India, it's just like they want to make the best use of the model they can, but we won't get such good treatment from them. I can understand why, you know, they have such a big amount of, they have such a big population down there, and they always have a second option, so we don't really have that option of being like expensive with them, you know, we can't be like, we want this, we want that. Yes. Whereas abroad, we don't even have to ask, like, when I was doing the Paris Fashion Week, there were a set of people who would come in and do your manicure, your pedicure, give you a head massage.
Oh, really?
Put a mask on your face right before you walk through a runway. And I've heard from a lot of friends who've done shoots in London and all that, that they always get the best treatment. They'd get like a massage chair, so that, you know, the clients in the European side and abroad, they want their models to feel relaxed and so that they get the best performance.
Yes.
Whereas in India, it's always rushed.
Yeah.
Like, there's been this one time when I've had to go from one shoot to another, and I fell asleep during the shoot, right? Because I'd just flown in from Rajasthan to Delhi, and then from Delhi to Mumbai, and I had to go back to Delhi again. And I got to Mumbai from Delhi at around 3 o'clock in the morning, and my call time was 6. Wow. And it was a very far location, so for me to travel from the airport directly to my house, I wouldn't make it in time for my shoot. So I had to travel 2 hours to get to that location. So directly from the airport, I'd get into a cab or the car that the client had sent to pick me up, and then I'd go directly to the shoot location. And I'd fall asleep every time the makeup artist is on me or the hairstylist is on me. And when that happens, the clients get kind of like a bit like frustrated, I would say. But it's not my fault.
No, it wasn't.
But they'd get a bit frustrated because they'd feel that when the push comes to shove, and when it's time for me to perform, right, I won't be able to give my 100. That's what they felt like, but I proved them wrong.
I have to admit, I'm a noob in terms of fashion or modeling. What are some of the different types of gigs that you get, and what is your favorite?
We have many different types of gigs. There's like the e-commerce, the catalog, the lookbook, the campaigns, and then we have the commercials and then the editorials. Editorials are probably my favorite because you get to play around with your body, you get to be who you want to be, and there's no restriction in your movements, there's no restriction on the image you want to create around yourself or the character you want to create. We're given a mood board which we have to kind of follow through the whole shoot. That's it. Whereas for lookbooks and commercials, no, not for commercials, but lookbooks and e-commerce, it's just specific movements and very fast shots, like, you know.
You're telling me about the lookbook.
Yeah.
Can you show me again?
It's just walk. That's it. That's it. That's basically it. And then back profile. ting, that's it.
I wanted to ask you this the first time we met, and I thought it was too heavy for the first meeting. Some of the toxic female behaviors that get talked about quite often is women tearing each other down and women not supporting each other out of jealousy or whatever it is. And I would imagine working in a highly competitive industry where basically you are judged on your appearance, and majority are females there. Have you experienced this kind of female toxic behavior?
I think I've been lucky in terms of this. Like, I haven't had many people bring me down in terms of my appearance or anything, because I was getting enough jobs for them to, not be able to say anything to me. But there are a lot of people that I know who do get brought down by a lot of girls. They just like bring them down by forming groups and kind of ganging up on that person. But that's it. And the only way we can get away or put ourselves up there and kind of like keep them where they are is just like ignoring them. And I've learned that the hard way through my friends. There's this one friend of mine who came up to me like crying and saying that these girls are saying this about me. I don't feel good enough for this industry. Sometimes even I do feel like I'm not good enough for the industry, but what keeps me going is that like the people that I've worked with, they always encourage me, support me, and they kind of push me, they tell me, you can do it, you're like one of the best people I've worked with, and that kind of wants you to work harder and work more with work more within the industry.
At the beginning of a conversation, you're also saying all the negatives of this industry, and one of the negative or the underbelly of this fashion industry is also something that always gets cited is the control sometimes the agency has over a model in terms of their diet or the money they are paid, So have you experienced that, or do you know of some people who've experienced that, and how is it? It must be really difficult, to be...
Yeah, it is difficult, but it's not like our agency is exploiting us, They're kind of working with what we want to work with as well. Like I said in the previous conversation, if we want to be somewhere, like abroad, right? If we want to make a name for ourselves, we have to be able to push ourselves. And our agency, when they control us, it is difficult because, you have to undergo so many changes that you're not used to. Like, for example, the diet, the workout regime, and then also maintaining your social circle and all that. Even like going out has to be controlled. The amount of alcohol you drink controlled. Even diet, I can't have dairy. When like 2 months prior to me going abroad, I won't have any dairy. And it's something that's needed within the industry, That's why there's like, I feel like, there's a certain type of body, there's a certain type of face, there's a certain type of character also sometimes. It doesn't really have to, some girls that I know, they're brought into the agency because of the character, their attitude towards work. It's not because of their face or their body. I think anyone can actually make it. It's just really about how much endurance you have and how much you're willing to do to get yourself to the next stage.
One of my favorite singers, Baz Luhrmann, he has a song called Everybody's Free, and one of the famous lines there is, do not read fashion magazines, they will only make you feel ugly, he says. So, as little girls, I was telling you, when I was a little girl, and I think most of us, in general, we would grab onto whatever fashion magazines and beauty magazines we see, and we're just flipping through, and we're like, oh my God, I want to look exactly like that. And now you being in that kind of sphere, do you think that modeling and fashion industry, do you think it's come a long way in terms of body positivity and inclusivity, or do you think there's still a lot more to go?
I think that we're somewhere in between. It's not been fully accepted, but at the same time, people are starting to accept it because of all the noise coming about, due to this whole entire thing. And there are a lot of diverse body shapes within the world, right?
Yeah.
So obviously I feel like they had to take it under consideration, because you can't always like show a certain figure and be like, you have to look exactly like this to be beautiful. It's not that. So I feel like we're getting somewhere, we're getting there in terms of body inclusivity and body positivity.
Yeah, and even you were telling me last time that when we met, some people don't want to sign you on because you have a strong face.
Yeah.
So that's also, you're also breaking barriers in that terms, in that aspect.
And me not being able to be signed just because of my strong face didn't really put me down. I do feel a bit like, sometimes I do feel like, oh, why didn't they accept me? I really wanted to be a part of their management. But at the same time, I'm like, it's okay, because you know what? This whole idea of them like kind of pushing me out will just make another agency who's the perfect fit for me come and take me into their arms. And then I'll probably be managed 100 times better than the agency that I really wanted to be with. So I feel like it's something positive for me.
Yes, exactly, because that's what they're looking for. So they will actually work with you and groom you and make you the best of you. We all bring something different to the table, you know, and your strong face, quote unquote, you bring something, and that's why people want you. That's why you've reached where you are. So kudos to you for sticking it out.
Thanks. Thank you so much. It really like helps me. Thank you so much. Like honestly, like you bringing me on and talking to me and giving me this much support really makes me, really motivates me, you know, to do much better and to work harder.
No, you should. You should. I really, as you know, I've been trying to reach you for a few months. We had a miscommunication, and you thought I wasn't reaching out to you, but I was trying to reach out to you, and I was very happy when you agreed to come on the show, because I think it's very important for our young girls to see how other young girls are breaking into the world, you know, and breaking into the world safely. To do your homework, to be safe. Because in a rush to get somewhere, sometimes, you know, bad things could happen to you. And you're an example of chasing your dreams, but doing it with a strong head on your shoulders and always playing it safe. So I'm very happy you came here.
Thank you so much. And it's true. I feel like this is a message out to all the girls, you know, in Bhutan who want to go abroad and make a living abroad. Or even break a barrier abroad. They have to be really safe with what they're getting into, because I have experienced a lot of people going the wrong way but having so much to give.
Yes.
And I just feel like, you know, Bhutan has so much to give to the world so far, right now. And we have so many talented people who can really make it really far. It's all about how you know, how safe you are and how you take care of yourself.
And you're also saying something very interesting, that people think that, oh, she's a model, she's probably making so much money, it's such a glamorous life. And you were telling me the first paycheck you got was just 15,000 Neutrums. So it's very humbling to know that, and I think it's very important for young girls to know that, oh, as soon as you're a model, you're not like raking in the cash. You know,
it's not easy. Even your popularity comes with a price, you know, and it comes with the price of you being able to mingle with the people around you, production. And the way I've made it so far is, my mom has this motto of saying, always be thankful to everyone who's around you. And every time I go into a set, regardless of whether I'm in a positive mood or a negative mood, I make sure to stick to my professionalism. And when I leave, I always say thank you to the whole team.
What are some of the challenges you faced as a model? And maybe specifically as a female model, do you think it's more challenging?
I think it's easier to be a female model than a male model, because the industry itself supports a lot of female clothing, you know what I mean? It's because of that notion that girls will go out and shop more. So there's a bigger market regarding shopping for girls, right? So obviously there's going to be a bigger market for female models compared to male models. And talking about challenges, there are many. Like, I didn't know how to fit into an industry. When I went to India, I had a hard time penetrating the industry because they were not okay with Asian looks. In India, they are looking for like more foreign looks, but with the Indian touch. And they always want like someone like Jacqueline Fernandez, for example, you know, not really dark skinned, fair skinned, but looks Indian. They wanted those kind of people. And me being an Asian face with chinky eyes, you know, a strong look, I was worried. I was like, how am I going to penetrate this market? How do I, you know, work around people around here? How do I make people accept me for who I am? And the only person I had was myself, so I would like talk to myself. and be like, it's all right. I do something called a butterfly hug when I'm really stressed from work and when I travel too much and I'm really tired and I don't know how to react to stuff, or when there's like a lot of tension within a set. I just take time off and I kind of give like myself a butterfly hug, and I just tell myself, it's all right, you're good, you can do this. So you know, it's not been easy. Like I have a lot of mental issues right now as well, like because it's not easy. The things that we have to sacrifice in order to get to where we are, it's not easy, and it's mentally exhausting. We have to be able to make a good relationship with the client so that the client wants us again and again and again, right? So to keep up our farce sometimes can be tiring. When I was in Paris, I had a hard time because I didn't know the language.
Yes.
So for me to get around, it was scary, and there would be times when my internet wouldn't work and I have no one there, and I'd just be like trying to ask people, you know, for the directions.
Yes.
And it's not easy. The last challenge was that our diet maintenance and then our restriction, because we are human. We also have some stuff that we want to eat.
Yes.
You know, when I see my friends eat and I know that I can't eat, it's kind of like torture.
Through all the challenges that you're mentioning, you're still doing it, so there is a rewarding aspect to it. So what is the most rewarding part about this job that you're doing now?
It's definitely the traveling, because I can probably say right now that I've been to more parts of India than Indians themselves have.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, and I've gotten to stay at palaces that are not open to the public as easily, and it's just beautiful. It's like worth it, you know. You get to experience a different culture, a different set environment, even different people, and that's like the best.
I have to say, I enjoyed our chat last time. I enjoyed our chat today even more. I feel like when we talk, we lose sight of the conversation.
I know.
But I have to remind myself to thank you again for being such a strong role model for our young girls, for breaking barriers for Bhutanese women. And as you're doing it, and from your lived experience, what advice or message would you have for young aspiring girls out there who are watching us right now and who may perhaps be holding on to a dream of becoming a model too, perhaps?
To those who want to be a model, please be safe. Make sure you do your research. Make sure you have a good, you have family support. Make sure that when you go abroad, you don't get easily homesick. And even if you do, make sure that you keep communicating with your parents, because that's one big thing. Stay humble and always reach out for opportunities instead of waiting for them to come. Traveling. As you know it, you get to see things that not a lot of people can. How much we have to endure, how headstrong we are. Mornings, best lighting. Ooh, zute. My mom, because of how strong she is and how much effort she puts into taking care of all of us. My family, because of all the support they give me, and it just makes me want to be a better person, just not for myself but also for them. Oh, my dad's jokes, because they're dad jokes, don't make sense at all. Oh, I'd say just streaming or watching anime. Oh, I love anime. It's something that people don't know about me. Grateful for my life, because you only get one, and the way you live it really does make a difference. And I'm also grateful. I have two things I'm grateful for. I'm also grateful for the people I meet, because they bring something and they always teach me something. how I compromise. So I don't really like, you know, if I'm set on something, I'm not that kind of like set. I can compromise with people. I think that's my biggest strength. Smelly feet. I mean, they can be aired out. Entrepreneur. But modeling has its perks, but still entrepreneur. Actually, I like being a girl, but at the same time, there's a lot of negatives to being a girl, like how we're looked in society, and what we have restrictions on what people think that we can do and we can't do. So it's nice to be a girl and be like, see, I can do that.
Make sure that you take care of yourself, and do remember, you're strong, you're smart, you're beautiful, and your story needs to be heard. Take care.